back to another episode. So this week I need to go through and sort out this chopper frame for my buddy Adam. So he bought a heap of parts. He's got a pan head he wants to put in this frame. He just wants me to go over and have a bit of a check over this thing. This is obviously an old chopper frame, and just like anything, you know, a stock Harley comes from, you know, the same factory. They're all made the same. They're all the same. They're all uniform. You know what you get. With a chopper, they're all modified. So everyone has had a go at modifying it. So some people obviously have more talent than others. Some people can weld really good. Some people can't. Some people have all the tools. Some people don't. So it's really a bit of a gamble how good your frame is that has been modified. So obviously this frame is covered in modifications, starting with this massive break in the neck. Now, I'm not sure how well you guys can see on the camera. I will come give you a close-up, but the welding in the neck of this thing is fucking wild. And there's all sorts of brazing all over it. There's oxy welds here. This all looks like oxy welds. So this is obviously a really old modification. So I've already had this thing in my jig. I know this neck is not straight. So a lot of the times when they do this stuff, when they modify a neck, they don't even have a jig to, you know, set it up and make sure they weld it up and it's straight. I've got a lot of like early books and stuff about modifying your choppers, and back then obviously there was no internet, there's no phone in your pocket. You couldn't just look it up and, you know, look what someone's done on Instagram, I'm going to do that, and it's copies by other people's shit. You sort of had to work it out. So they had books and shit back in the day. A couple of old books that I've read is like the Chopper Cookbook is one of them that tells you how to do all sorts of frames and front ends and fucking different motor stuff and all sorts of weird bits and pieces. They talk about doing a lot of frame fabrication without jigs, without anything, just telling you where to cut it and pull shit together and pull shit apart, all sorts of wild bits and pieces. The other one I have read for motors and stuff is what fits what, and that, you know, that shows you what sort of different Harley parts you can, you know, mix with other Harley parts to get different stuff. A good example of that is taking a UL flywheel. UL flywheels have heaps of stroke and a smaller bore, so that's how they make the 80 cube. One of the big hot rod things they did back in the day was you take a UL crank, you put that in a knuckle with the right pistons, you have a stroker knuckle. It has heaps and heaps of stroke. So it's got more than a 4 1/4 stroke. I think it's 4 and I forget off the top of my head. I'll put it here, but they have heaps of stroke. So that is the best way to stroke a knuckle or a pan or anything like that for that matter. So there are cool little books like that out. You don't have to find everything on the internet, but back to this frame. So obviously this is an early modification that someone's done. It's pretty wild. I already know it's not straight. I've had it in my jig. Adam asked me to just check it out before he puts it together. He got it all sandblasted. Obviously it looked completely different. And then you get it sandblasted like this and you can see all the shit that's going on. So there's a few cracks here and there. There's heaps of brazing in this. So the brazing is an old style of filling a material up sort of thing instead of bog like we use now. They did a lot of brazing. So basically what I'm going to do with this frame in this episode, I need to cut the neck off and redo it, because I'll do this in a sec, but I'll put it in the jig and show you how far it is off. So basically I need to chop the neck off and weld it back on straight. All the gusseting and stuff looks pretty fucking wild. So Adam wants this thing to be safe, obviously, so I'm just going to hack it off and do it again. It's pretty hard just hacking a little bit off and then trying to move it and get it right. Sometimes it's just easier to just pull a band-aid and cut the whole thing off and reattach it better. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So why don't I go ahead and get this thing set up in the jig, and then I can show you the center line and show you why this thing is so far out and we've got to cut it up. Alright, so I have my frame in my jig here, right? I've got it bolted down to the bench. I have a center line through the frame, and I've made sure the frame is in the center and square with the center line. So the center line is perfectly square with my tower, and I just have half the tower in here just so you can see. Now if we look down it, see my threaded rod is off to one side there. So the frame is not in the center. Now if you come and look down it, it's a bit hard, but If we look down the frame, so we are in the center line here, right? Center line straight up the frame. If we look down it and look at the neck there, see it's a bit tweaked. It's like this. See, it sort of comes down on a freaking angle. It's tweaked there. So that little bit there, you see how we've got that bit in the threaded rod? It's not perfectly center in our neck there. So the problem with that, so it's not perfectly center, right? So because you probably think, oh, it's not much, it'll be right, but a good little way to show you. So let's say, let's keep that, that's the front end there, right? That is like a 8/over standard length front end. So it's about from the neck to the end of the wheel, it's probably about 1200 mil. So let's say 4 foot. So this here, this is my little straight edge. This is about the same length. So if we line it up here and just here, so a little bit here turns out to be a lot down the bottom there. So you see how far out we are here? So it's exactly the same up there in the neck. Just because it's a tiny little bit out there, in reality, when we get out to the wheel, that's how far off centerline it's going to be. So this is probably even less than what it is out here. So if we were to make this the same, let's say that it is more like that. Let's say this is how far out it is over this small distance. We'd call that a couple of mil over the side of the neck, so you wouldn't think it's much. Look at it out there. So we've got a good 2 inches out here that it's off center line now because it's so much further away. It exaggerates the issue up here all the way down there. So we need to get that neck right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to take this back out of my jig here. I'm going to cut this neck completely off. So we're going to cut it down here. You can see the weld job on this. This looks like it's oxy welded through here. It is fucking ugly as hell. So it's not even like fully in here. Like the cups have been welded into the neck too. Super strange. And the annoying thing about these early modifications is all of this brass they've put in here, all this braze and shit they've put in here, I can't fucking weld back over that. That's impossible to weld over. Because I'm going to be doing this with my humble little TIG welder and not a fucking oxy welder like that, my TIG can't weld this much brass. Obviously, all steel has some sort of copper in it, but too much percentage will cause it not to weld. So it just spits at you and goes bang. So I'm hoping I can cut this out so I don't have to use it. I can cut it through here. And then I'm going to put this neck back in the lathe, machine it nice again, and then we're going to stick it back on here, weld a new plate through here. You can see how thin this plate is. It is only a couple of mil thick. It is not thick enough. So this thing needs some love, that's for sure. So like I said, I'm going to pull it out of this thing and we are going to chop that neck off, put it back in here and tack it back on. So to do this job, I'm just going to use the Humble angle grinder. Now, you Americans wouldn't know this, but this is what's called a guard. You guys seem to, I don't know if you lose them or you've never seen them before. Maybe the grinder doesn't come with it. This is to stop you from touching the cutting wheel when it's going. I don't know, you guys need to find one of these, or maybe you guys haven't invented them yet. Super good. Anyway, this is the tool I'm going to use to cut this. So we'll get our trusty little pen here. Basically what I want to do here, I'm going to come through, this tube sort of comes through. This looks like it's been extended or fucked with before. See how it sort of dips in at the top? So this, I don't know, this sort of looks aftermarket through here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it back here, try and cut it behind that brass there, because I don't want to have to try and weld that again. I want to cut that out. So this should be back here anyway, so I don't really care about cutting that piece out because I will cut it off there. But I just want to separate the neck from the frame to start with. So we'll cut it through there like that, right? And then we are going to meet it with this one. So I'm going to cut this all the way through here and we'll meet here. So what that's going to do, that's going to separate the neck completely from the frame, which is what we want. And then we're going to have this nice fresh canvas here to weld it back onto. So once I get this off here, obviously I'm going to come through and cut it through here, cut the whole lot off, and then we can put it in the lathe there, and we can fix it up and make this nice again, and then put it back together. The whole frame then will just be a nice blank canvas. We'll grind all this off, we'll grind all that off, make it nice. We'll make the neck nice again, and then we'll put the thing back on. We'll just set the frame up on the jig, put the neck in the top of the jig there, and then we'll work out how to join them back together. I'll cut a nice big flat piece of steel to go in here, another one in here, and we'll call it good. I might even talk to Adam, maybe he wants to window this thing. Sometimes a big modification back in the day, they wouldn't run this plate in here. So you just got a big thick plate at the bottom, and then this is open. It's called a window frame. So they look super cool as well. So I forget, Adam did talk to me about this. I really need to start doing job sheets and writing down what he wants. I forget if he wanted to cut this out or leave it. So sorry, Adam, I will have annoyed you about this already, but from memory, I think he wanted to cut that out. Usually they have a sister bar through here. So the sister bar is that extra bar through there. My frame's got one. That one right there. See that bar just here? That is the sister bar. So that is what they should have. But obviously this one has been cut out and they've put this in it. So anyway, I will hit up Adam and see what he wants to do there. But I'm just going to time lapse this. Let's get cutting. Now, you'll be surprised, using a grinder like this is actually super accurate. This is way better than trying to use like a fucking oxy acetylene, like oxy torch or something to cut this neck off. If you're really precise with that little 1mm cutting disc, you can cut these things super precise and in the right spot, so you're not having to fix something up that you've cut poorly. Fuck, this frame's done it. This grinder has seen some frames, and this grinder just let the smoke out. Oh no. Whoa, she's fucking let the smoke out. Let's let her go and see what happens. Whoa, holy fuck. Yeah, well, she's fucked, boys. Whoops. Anyway, that has let the smoke out, so I'm going to have to go get another one before I can finish this off. All right, so new grinder on the premises. Little trick. In Australia, we have a place called Bunnings. It's basically the Home Depot of what you guys have in the States, but they have fucking warranty on all their stuff, right? So the trick is if you buy the same exact grinder as you bought before, keep the receipt, and then you've got a brand new spanker here, and then you return your old one and say it was fucked, and then you got two grinders for the price of one. So I'm going to do that in a few weeks when this thing's, because it's pretty fucking beat up. I won't be able to do that in 2 days. So I'll give it a couple of weeks, return that, get a shiny new one, then I'll have two grinders. Anyway, let's keep going on this neck. Like I was saying before I blew my freaking grinder up, you can see how accurate this thing is when I pull it off. The neck is perfectly cut there. I've cut down the face of the frame that I'm grinding up now, and it just makes it super, super clean. I can just clean that up with my humble little grinding wheel there, and it's ready to weld again. So I'm sort of doing the same thing with the neck here. I just hacked that off, and then I put it between centers in my lathe, and I just machined it pretty well round again, and then finished it up with a buffing wheel. All right, so after I hacked the neck off, I've just cleaned it up here with a grinder, gave it a bit of a linish in the lathe, and it's freaking good to go now. So basically what I'm going to do here, I'm going to chuck that guy in here. I'm going to set all this up, put that back to 40 degrees, which it was before. I didn't show you guys. I measured the angle before I cut it apart, so I knew where it goes back on. If you were going to change the angle from before, it doesn't really matter. So like I said, I'm going to set all this up, and then we'll come back and I'll show you. We've got to sort of notch this a little bit to make it slip back into our neck nicely. So this is all set up now. I have my 40 degrees that we were talking about. You see it right there. So I have 40 degrees of rake here because this is perfectly right angled to the bottom of the frame. So as you can see, I have these big gaps here on both sides. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna put a radius in the bottom. Oh, that's just on rollers there. So we want to put a radius in the top here and put a radius in the bottom. Obviously, when they extended this thing, they've stretched it as well. If we come back here, this is standard length right here. That's what the S is for on my jig. And that's all the way up here. That should be in the middle of our axle plate. So this is being stretched. Obviously, when we rake it, it sort of pushes the frame away at the same time. So I think something's been added in here along time somewhere. So I'm going to scallop this out so this fits pretty nicely. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of a gap here because that'll act like a weld prep. We can fill that up, make it super strong. Remember, this is not the bit that's going to be doing all the work. It's going to be this guy through here that's going to be doing all the weightlifting. So let's just scallop this out, get this pretty close, and then when we come back, we'll start marking this stuff out, I reckon. So I have my frame all set up in my jig here. So axle plates are center of my center line. As you can see, I have a center line up the center of my bench and up my tower. So all that is perfectly center there. Axle plate center of that. And we come forward, this guy, my frame is center here. I just use a square off both sides, measure to the center line, that's square there. And I have sort of just cut this out a little bit with a grinder. You can see these little gaps I was talking about before. This is not going to be a burden at all. This is going to help us weld this up and make it stronger. We're going to fill all that with weld. It's going to be super strong. It's going to act like a weld prep. So same thing all the way around this, no gaps, same both sides. All this looks super nice through here. So that is all in the right spot there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to come through, put probably 4 tacks on it, 1 on both sides here, top and bottom, and we're going to call that in place. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start working out this stuff. So I'm going to weld in some gussets and shit here. Now, this neck, you can see how usually this neck would have a little join here where you hit your bearing cups in. So this is your bearing cup. Someone has Frenched these in along the way, so made them one piece. So just want to make sure that this piece misses that. I don't want to be welding to the cup because the cup will change shape and then the bearing will not be round anymore. So I just want to make sure it's up here and I don't fucking, put so much heat into this it's no longer round. The steering will not work very well. So I'm going to tack that. I'm going to make this and make a little template out of cardboard for this, tack all that together, and then we'll fucking go through welding this thing out. So I've made a little plate here just out of a template, and then I cut it out of a nice thick 5mm piece of steel. Now you want this guy nice and strong because that is literally taking all of the weight of this thing. Every time you ride it, this thing is trying to separate here. It's trying to pull that away and break the neck off this direction. So this needs to be your strongest part. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to weld all the way around this and all the way around this now. Because what's going to happen if I put this centerpiece in, I'm not going to be able to weld all the way down there, all the way there, and all the way around the neck. This needs to be super fucking strong. So now that we've got this brace in it, we can weld it because it's not going to want to do this. We couldn't weld it before here because it'd probably try and separate down here. So now that we have this nice strong triangle in here, we can weld this part together and then just put our little window in. So these frames all revolve around triangles. Triangles are the fucking strongest shape. So you see there's a triangle here, there's another one here, another one there. The whole thing is triangles, and that is the freaking strongest way to build something. So I'm going to go through now, weld this all the way around, weld all this way around, and then I'm going to let it cool down, and then I'm going to tack this centerpiece in and then weld that too. If your weld is not that big, I'm welding this with a TIG. That's like a 205 amp TIG. If your TIG welder or MIG welder, whatever you're using, isn't very big, preheat the job first. Preheating the job first will give you more penetration and make the weld stronger. The reason for that is, you don't have to heat this thing up the whole way before it starts to weld properly. It's already hot. So with a really big machine, it doesn't matter because it'll heat the section up that you're welding super fast. With a smaller machine, not so much. So I'm going to go through, weld this out, and then we'll come back once I have made this piece and let this cool down. Now, welding this thing, you can see I put a heap of preheat in it because my machine's probably not big enough. I welded this maxed out on my machine at 205 amps. If I had a bigger machine, it probably would have been closer to 220, 230 amps. Just had a bit of pulse in there, nothing crazy, just your normal GP rods as well. Here is the neck all welded up. As you can see, you can sort of see what I mean. I was able to get that whole weld the whole way around this thing without having an annoying plate in the middle. So I could weld absolutely everything the whole way through and around without putting an annoying plate in the middle. So now I will do exactly that and put that annoying plate in there, tack it in. I'll probably wait for this to cool down a bit. It's fucking pretty hot still. Put that plate in there, weld the absolute hell out of that, and then that will be the neck pretty well done. So I'll go and do that now. Right, so I made this little plate here. The way I did it, I just made a little template just like that. Top me. I don't mean top myself, I mean top towards me. So that's that. Got it all welded in now. Like I said, I just heated this up again. I've still got a bit of heat in it. Turns out that's a 205. My broken Feronius welder right there is a 220. And it fucking used to eat this stuff up. And now this new welder that's only a 205 struggles a little bit. So you see the weld's a little bit small there and sort of same there, but still had good penetration. I just had to put some heat into it first. So if you've got a small welder like me, that's what you'll have to do. That size is fine for doing like the rest of the frame, but this is like the bulk of material. This is where all the thick shit is. So this needed a little bit more. So that turned out really fucking nice. This side's a little bit better. I think all this brass molding and stuff in the frame makes it horrible to fucking weld. So I did pretty good with this considering. Now, Adam, my buddy, he'll probably fucking boggle this again and fix it up. So I'm going to leave all this weld nice and proud and he can bog over it. A proud weld is always stronger than a radius ground down weld. So he can just bog this up and make it look a bit nicer. But that is fucking strong as hell and is straight now. So that's a good start. So there's two more things I need to do on this frame, right? One of the things I'm going to do is weld up all these holes. It has heaps of holes around the place like this. And I think he must have done like a heap of internal wiring on this frame. So over this side, we've got some holes here. Like we said, this one here, there's one there. And there's a really big one through the axle plate here. So that's obviously tail light wiring. Now, I'm going to just weld all that up because that's just fucking annoying. I've done one frame before that had internal wiring and it was an absolute fucking nightmare and really wasn't worth the, messing around because you have this hole here where a wire goes through. If it gets cut in there or going into the hole, or maybe there's something in the frame you can't see and it's rubbing and wears through, you can't find the issue. It's fucking terrible. You can't diagnose that shit on the side of the road. I always build these bikes to be user-friendly and be able to be worked on the side of the road. If you're trying to pull a wire out from inside the frame, that is not user-friendly, nor are you going to do that on the side of the road. So I'm going to weld all these up, patch them back up so they weren't there. And the last thing I want to do, I'll probably do that first thing off camera. It's pretty boring. I'm just going to get the MIG and go and then fucking fill it and then grind it up and make it look nice. These ones that are in line with this brass is going to be fucking annoying. That's why I'm just going to use a MIG and fill it up. So I'll do that off camera, not important, but this one is a little bit annoying and pretty common, to be honest. This crack through our down tube here. So the way I want to fix this, the crack only goes halfway, right? So all I'm going to do is get my grinding wheel, whatever the fuck it is, here it is. All I'm going to do is get that, and I'm going to plunge it in along the length of the crack. Now, Sure, we can weld over this and it'll be fine, but I want to grind it down and make it look like it was never there. So you have to cut into it and grind a weld prep into it so that when you grind it away, your weld remains. So I'm going to get my little trusty grinder out, weld prep all down here. We're going to weld prep a little bit past it. Always go past the crack because no point welding up to it and then you didn't see the crack after it and it keeps going. So I'm going to go do that, weld prep it, and I'll come back and show you before we weld it. Now, I don't have to do this in the jig. That's not going to change the geometry at all. So I'm probably going to pull it out and I'll just do it on the bench so that I can put this on its side, make it a bit easier for myself to weld it. So let's get into that. All right, so it is the next day. Last night, I went and used my old boy's MIG welder and MIG'd up all these holes and shit that were in this frame. I actually don't have a MIG welder at my place. I only use a TIG. So when you go through and do stuff like this that has brass and stuff in it, sometimes it's easy with a MIG welder. You can just sort of shoot material in there. You don't have to worry too much about it. So I have this bit all sorted out now. So this is that crack we spoke about. So I couldn't really get in there with a grinder. So I just did it with a die grinding bit, just like this. So it's just a round die grinding bit and I was able to come in here and just V that out. So now after I weld this, I'll be able to blend this flat here and you won't even know it was there. And the weld is still going to be super strong because I have this big V in it. So I'll go through now, weld this up, give it a polish and a linish, and we'll see how it comes out. Righto, that is it all welded up and linished up and smooth and everything. Once you have some paint on this and a bit of fucking, you know, primer and all that, you won't even notice the difference. So the same as all this other crap that I've fixed up, you know, a bit of primer, a bit of bog or whatever, to fix all that up, it will look super nice. So the last thing I want to do on this frame that has been annoying me the whole time, the sort of bike Adam's going for, he wants this top section to be real short and simple. When I mean by short, I don't mean the front end. He wants this to be a bit simpler. Obviously, it's supposed to have a sister bar through here, but this has sort of been annoying me the whole time. See how it sort of has a nice radius and then dicks back up for some reason? I just want to fix that radius a bit and cut out this little dip here, and that'll make it give it a much better shape, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll fucking sign off from this video, I reckon. Right, guys, that is it. Resurrecting this old chopper frame. Now, my buddy Adam can be sure that this neck is not going to break off in the future. He's got like a, I think it's like a 16 over Springer front end to go on this thing, so this thing is going to be super fucking solid now. So, like I said, that's it for this week's episode. On the next episode, I think I'm going to be finishing off that pan head that we did the oiling and the compression ratio and stuff on before. So I really need to get that finished off because I've got a heap of other motors coming through. I also have I think it's a 52. I've got a 52 FL pan head that I got to completely rebuild. So it's a fully assembled motor. We're going to pull it down together. We're going to pull it apart together, inspect it together, and then rebuild it together. So that'll be a good project. It's going to be like the shovel head project that I did, be like a 4 or 5 part series, and we'll go through and completely rebuild this pan end. So as always, if you guys have learned something or just want to say thanks for the content, please, there is a button here or a button in the description down below. Go over and buy a t-shirt. A lot of you in the comments saying, I wish I was closer to you so I could buy you a beer. I think I'm going to stick a buy me a beer sticker in the corner too. So, you know, you guys can do a bit of a donation if you can't buy from the States because Australia currently doesn't ship there. But that is something that I think I'm going to put in the future. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.